What is going on? Welcome to the pod. So, the body fat set point or settling point. You've likely heard about this concept, idea, theory, and we are going to be chatting all about it in this episode. First of all, we all have two body fat set points, and we all have one more general range or settling point. So let's start with the two set points. The bottom end set point is where we get so lean that our body begins to fight back, essentially by ramping up appetite and subconsciously decreasing our desire to move, i.e., burn calories. And a classic example are bodybuilders that get on stage in Speedos and bikinis. They are outrageously lean to the point where they have such low body fat percentages that they look malnourished, which in fact they are. The body is fighting back at that point because it's survival based. The body thinks that it's actually at risk of starvation. And so in a scenario like this, it ramps up appetite and does its best to minimize or reduce movement via an obvious mechanism of lower energy levels. Now the kicker is that 95+% of people never get lean enough to kick in this mechanism, fortunately, because it is not healthy. Also, on the other end of the spectrum, or the top end set point, we can look to folks who get well into the 200, 300, 400, 500 plus pounds range, depending on their height. The body is also fighting back at that point, but to reduce food intake. And the reason is, your body wants to be as healthy as humanly possible. Because the healthier that you are, the more likely you are to create healthy offspring. And if you are past childbearing age, the healthier that you are, the more that you can contribute to child rearing in one way or another, i.e., fit and able grandparents. The saying, "it takes a village to raise a child," applies here. So these are the top and bottom set points. Too little body fat and too much body fat. And these points are going to vary somewhat between individuals, but typically not by a ton. And things that you want to keep an eye out for, as far as knowing whether you are approaching these 2 points, are obviously very low body fat and too much body fat, as well as things like reproductive capabilities. So for women, that's libido in the menstrual cycle, and for men, that's libido in things like erection frequency and quality. Energy levels, of course, skin appearance, digestive health, sleep quality, essentially anything that signifies that you are not thriving. We don't just want to survive, we want to thrive. So being that those are the set points, what's in the middle? Your settling point. And the great thing about your settling point is that it is very much malleable as long as you take the correct nutrition, movement, and sleep approach. Your body is not going to fight you like it would when you get too close to the top or bottom end range. And so, this is where this whole concept is fairly misunderstood, because folks often think that their body is fighting them well within their settling point. But it's not their body. Again, as long as they're taking the correct approach. It's actually just their habits that are the issue. For example, someone starts making an effort to eat more healthfully, and they do for 3 or 4 days or even 3 or 4 weeks, and then fall off track, have a big weekend, erase their progress, hop back on the wagon, fall off again, and rinse and repeat for months or even years. This is not their body fighting them. It's just lack of consistency with their habits. Or maybe they start eating healthier, they lose fat, they're looking, feeling, and performing better, they reach their goal, And then after some time, their habits begin to slip. They start to include a few more drinks on the weekends. They begin to snack a little more. Their portions creep up. They have dessert more often. Their step counts begin to decline. They miss some workouts. It is a gradual process of reverting to their old habits, and as a result, they revert to their old body composition. Meaning, it's not that their body hates them and their goals, it's that their behavior or habits either aren't consistent enough to begin with in order to yield the results that they're after, or their behavior and habits aren't ingrained enough yet to maintain their new body composition. And so the more consistent that you are, or the sooner that you ingrain your new lean and healthy habits, and the sooner that they become second nature, the sooner your quote-unquote new settling point will in fact settle in. But if you don't ever stay consistent enough to get the results in the first place, or you lose the fat and then go back to what you were doing nutrition, movement, and sleep-wise prior to achieving your fat loss results, you'll either never get there, or you'll get there and then you'll go right back to your previous settling point simply due to your actions, which is awesome news because we have 100% control over our eating, moving, and sleeping behaviors or actions. Now, I briefly mentioned earlier something about eating and moving correctly. And so let's cover what is correct because we can absolutely make it more or less difficult to maintain our new settling point based on the approach that we choose to take. For example, nutrition. We want to favor single ingredient whole foods for the vast majority of our dietary intake because they are lower in total calories, they are more filling, and they are higher in nutrients. Whereas multi-ingredient processed foods are high in total calories, less filling, and low in nutrients. And so if you only focus on total calories and neglect food quality, you are going to be hungry, and the likelihood that you are going to be nutrient deficient is almost certain. You can take a Weight Watchers-like approach, only account for calories and lose weight. It will work. However, you are almost certainly going to have a really tough time maintaining said weight loss because hunger is not sustainable. Everyone cracks. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So I would recommend favoring single ingredient whole foods for the vast majority of your intake. Be sure to get plenty of high quality animal protein and feel free to fill in your carbohydrate and fat quantities based on your personal preferences and how those ratios have you feel. Movement-wise, I'd recommend hitting 10,000 steps per day or 70,000 steps over the course of the week as a whole. If you'd like to work out on top of that, amazing. However, step counts are the priority for both fat loss and overall health. Walking does an incredible job of regulating the appetite, and we want that because nutrition is by far and away the most important factor in regards to losing fat and maintaining said losses. Sleep 7 to 9 hours per night and ideally go to bed early enough so that you can wake up naturally without an alarm. Sleep also plays a key role in appetite regulation, and the research is super clear on this. When we are underslept, we are hungrier, and as a result, we eat more. And again, nutrition is the key in regards to body composition, and so we want to set ourselves up for success by getting the sleep that our bodies need on a nightly basis. Super important point here. I mentioned that the bottom end set point and the top end set point don't vary a ton between individuals. However, they do vary somewhat, and these set points can be influenced by the quality of your habits as well. For example, let's say that there are two versions of you. Version 1 favors single ingredient whole foods and minimizes processed foods. and version 2 eats more processed foods and fewer single ingredient whole foods. However, your calorie intake is the same in both scenarios. So version 1 has very high diet quality and version 2 has lower diet quality. However, both versions are consuming the same number of total calories. Version 1 of you is going to be able to get leaner before you hit the bottom end set point than version 2 of you. And the reason for this is simply nutrient status and health. You can maintain a leaner body composition without seeing negative effects like reproductive capability when you choose a healthier diet. And so this is yet another reason to be sure that you are taking a healthful approach. Okay, so now the question becomes, where do you want your personal settling point to be? I have my clients establish this via a super simple traffic light system. So we've got a green, yellow, and red scale weight zone. For example, let's take my client Sharon, who recently wrapped up with me. She started in the low 180s and she lost just over 40 pounds. So she's super happy with how she's looking, feeling, and performing at 140-ish. Her green light zone could be 138 to 142. And green means we're all good, keep doing what you're doing, nutrition, movement, and sleep-wise, because it is working. Her yellow light zone could be 143 to 146, let's say. And that's a, hey, you might want to reel things in a little bit before that slippery slope turns into a cliff and we are straight up off track. Her red light zone could be 147 and up. And the red light means stop what you're doing, clean things up today because we are headed in a direction that we don't want to go in. If you lose fat, set your traffic light zones and hold yourself or have someone else hold you accountable to them. You literally cannot go wrong. You simply can't ever revert to your old habits and therefore your old body composition or settling point because you have a system in place that keeps you dialed in. You're always within striking distance. And something to remember around fat loss and weight maintenance is that it's so much easier to keep up than it is to catch up. And I'm not even talking solely physically. I'm talking mentally and emotionally as well, because it can be really demoralizing to put in a whole bunch of work to improve how you're looking, feeling, and performing, and then regress all the way back to square one. Having said that, it happens. I've worked with plenty of my clients multiple times, and that's okay because we don't always hit it out of the park every time the first time. We're not always on top of everything. Things happen. Family members fall ill. Injuries take place. Relationships start and end. Or you just get a little too comfortable. You sort of fall asleep to your life a tad and lose some awareness. And all of a sudden you wake up one day and you're like, shit, what the fuck happened? I was crushing it. I've had this experience a number of times, especially in regards to alcohol. I've cleaned things up, really gotten a grip over my alcohol intake, and then boom, I get a little too comfortable and slip down that slope, and all of a sudden I've had 2 months straight of having drinks every weekend. It happens. So do your best not to stay stuck in the beating yourself up phase, or the analysis paralysis stage, or the blaming phase. Prioritize action. And if you happen to have fallen off track and you're asking yourself, how did I let it get to this point? Listen to last week's podcast episode number 249 titled, How Did I Let It Get to This Point? It will get you moving in the right direction. So to sum things up, set points apply at the extremes of body composition when you are putting yourself at reproductive risk, i.e. too lean or too heavy. But we've got a middle range to play with, and there is nothing that is holding you back other than your habits in that range, which again is incredible news. Your body is not going to fight you. However, your habits might. And so the sooner that you ingrain those habits the easier and easier it is going to be to maintain your new body composition. And after enough time invested there, it will just become second nature. The amount of effort that's required for me to maintain my body composition or current settling point nowadays is pretty minimal. But I have well over a decade of consistent habits and behaviors behind me. And so if you're just starting out, or you're halfway there, or wherever you happen to be in your journey, as long as you keep showing up, it will get easier. I promise. If you're interested in applying for one-on-one nutritional coaching and or workout design with me, you can click the link in the description below or head on over to n1fitness.com/coaching. On Instagram, I'm at n1fitness. On TikTok, I'm at the n1fitness. And on YouTube, I am at marcusadu/n1fitness. Feel free to review the pod on your favorite podcast platform if you'd like to. And be sure to hit that subscribe button. Thanks for tuning in. I hope that you found this episode useful, and I will catch you on the next one. See ya.